Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fourth episode of the Knitting Texan podcast. My name is Ren, also known as Knitting Texan on Ravelry, and I am coming to you from a small town in Central Texas where I am from and where I live with my family. We have a Ravelry group for this podcast now. The only thread in it currently is just an introductory thread where you can answer just a bunch of random questions or random facts about yourself. Thank you to everybody who's watching, everybody who's new and everybody who's coming back. A little admin at the top of this, you may have noticed this blue in my glasses. I got a new pair of glasses that have a blue light blocking. So if you see that, that's what that is. Also, they should look the same because I buy my glasses online, same frames, different lenses. Also, I wanted to mention this, if you would like to make donations either to the podcast or to my stash personally, you can send me an email at the email address that I will leave in the description box below. You don't have to do that, but I know some people want to, and so if you would like to, you have that option. All right, so let's just dive right in. I do have one finished object, which you have not seen at all because I started it in the 2 weeks between the two podcasts. I have a pair of socks. I may or may not have gotten my sock knitting joy or craze back. Mojo is what people call it. So this is leftovers from a self-striping set that I actually won in a giveaway from the Crazy Sock Lady. And I'm super excited because this was my first self-striping skein. And it kind of reminds me of the Seattle Seahawks. Do you get that? I do kind of. The first pair I knit with this is this guy. Very old pair. It was like long time ago. But I used a different mini. The green came with it, but so I got two pairs of socks out of one. Two very large pairs of socks out of one skein of self-striping yarn. And I really enjoy self-striping. I see where everybody loves it. So yeah, I knit these two at a time. I didn't try to match them up. You can kind of see that the stripes are not exactly, they're kind of backwards, but I don't mind. And so I knit these. These are 64 stitch knit on US size 1 DPNs. I did a 1x1 rib, not twisted. I'm starting to do not twisted because not twisted is a lot stretchier than just twisted. So yeah, got a pair of socks. Did I say I knit these two at a time? I think I did, but you'll see later how I knit two at a time with DPNs, which sounds a little weird, but pair of socks. Alrighty, so now moving on into whips. So my Aggie Poncho, I don't think I made much progress on it since last time. I think last time I was just a little bit into the maroon and I've only like barely done any, but some people like to see it despite the fact that I haven't made much progress on it. So it's in my fox bag by White Rose Fiber Company, linked in the description box below. So yeah, I'm about that far, again, in the middle of the row. What else is new? So yeah, I'm about that far into the ash colorway. And so yeah, not much to show. Finished all the maroon, and that's where I am in the ash colorway. Also, again, I have both dogs in here, so if they make puppy noises, that's what that is. So, Aggie Poncho. Really short and sweet because I haven't really done much progress on it. Okay, so next whip, you also have not seen. It's in my lemon bag, and this is a pair of socks. Excuse me. So this is how I knit two at a time on DPNs. Is I just cast both of them on, and they're about at the same, not really place. What I do is I get the first one, well, this is not the first one, this is the second one, but I cast on, I do the rib, I do the heel flap and heel turn, and then I cast on the other one, do the rib, do the heel flap, do the heel turn, and then I do the gusset. And then I will come back to this one and do the gusset on this one, and then you continue until the end. So, yeah, this is in my beloved Cozy Toes from Yarn Bee, and it is in the Crisp Cobalt colorway. And this is actually the set, which you may not be able to read because it's backwards, but this is the 2 skeins that my knitting auntie sent me. So thank you very much. I am knitting them. I just kind of pulled it out of my box of Cozy Toes sock yarn, and these were the 2 that came up. So I'm knitting them, and I'm really enjoying them. I love Cozy Toes. I don't know how much I've mentioned how much I love it, and for those of you who don't love it, maybe send me some. Just kidding. So, I was watching the We Share Needles podcast where, I think it's Maddie was mending a pair of socks that Kristen, I think her name is, had knitted for somebody else, for a friend of theirs, and she was commenting on how small the gauge was, and I can totally understand. And I was like, and they couldn't figure out why the gauge was so small. So this is partially why I love this yarn, is because it's stretchy. You're able to knit with it kind of like not loose like this, but kind of stretched out, which sounds bad, but it's not. At least I don't think it's bad, but it makes the gauge like super super tiny, which means that it lasts longer, so it doesn't pill as much. And you don't get as they wear really well because of it. Also because they don't have wool, it wears pretty well. Or yeah, I guess. So anyways, what I typically do with Cozy Toes is I cast on really loosely and I knit really loosely. What I mean by loosely is I don't knit with it stretched like this. I knit with it as loosely as I possibly can. So typically about there. But then when I get to past the heel flap and heel turn, I knit with it like this, so stretched out. And then what it does is it makes this part really super stretchy and loose, and this really loose, which it already has the heel flap. If you know what a heel flap does, is it kind of makes these little, it kind of makes a double layer. The slip stitches make a double layer. And so once I get to the gusset, I start pulling it tight, and you can kind of see the difference in gauge right here to the stitches right there. Like, they're quite a bit different. This is probably almost half the size of this guy. So you can kind of see the difference between knitting it with kind of like this or stretched out. And not too stretched out. You don't want it like really stretched like this. You just kind of want it in just a little bit. So it's tight, but not like incredibly stretched, and because that could hurt your hands while you're knitting. So yeah, those are my Batman 2.0 socks, as I'm calling them. I'm just gonna have Batman 2.0, Batman 3.0, just all of them. Okay, so my next whip is also one that you've seen. Words is my hippo is my Musselburgh for me, and I'm keeping it in this project bag, which is also where I got this skein of yarn. It came in the same package from the Crazy Sock Lady, so this was my very first project bag, and it's not a box bottom bag, but you can kind of turn it into that, and it's got only one skein of yarn in here, so it kind of like sits. This is my tabletop knitting, as I like to call it. It's just a skein. Usually it's just a skein or a cake that's sitting on the desk, and I just knit from the cake. So this I just put in this bag so that it keeps mostly dog fur and people hair off of the yarn, off of the fur, off of the yarn. Okay. So this is my Musselburgh, and as you can see, I've made a lot of progress since last time. It actually looks like a hat now. So I finished the hippo for Hanukkah. So these are both Lolo did it. I got this hippo for Hanukkah from a D-stash because I missed the train for hippo for Hanukkah, and I was really wanted one of these skeins, and I didn't want to wait until next Christmas. So I got it on D-Stash. And I'm so glad that I did. I love it. And it was also cheaper than buying it from Lolo Did It. And I was able to um, pay somebody who bought it but wasn't going to use it back some of their money, right? So this is Hippo for Hanukkah. And I actually have a lot left of the cake. As I showed you last time, it was like this huge cake. I've since recaked it because I'm done with it for this project. And this is 75 grams left. That is a lot. I only used, I think it's actually 73, but it's still a lot for a hat. And so then this guy was kind of in timeout here because I wanted to get a blue that coordinated with it. So this is part of my acquisition since last time. But this is Lolo Did It in blue suede shoes, which you can't read because, again, it's backwards. I don't know why I'm showing it. But it's Lolo Did It, and it's her low original base, which is my favorite one. And it is, I forget the makeup all the time. It's an 8515 superwash merino, extra fine superwash merino, and 15% nylon. And it's a 3-ply, which, if I remember right, and don't quote me on this, but if I remember right, 3-ply, 2-ply is not as plump as 4-ply, and 3-ply is kind of in the middle. But I love the low original base. You can see the stitch definition is very nice. It looks really cool. To me. I like looking at it. So yeah, matches it really nicely. I'm about, I guess that would be about 4 inches, maybe. About 4 inches. From here to here on me is exactly an inch, so I use it a lot to measure. So yeah, that's my Musselburgh for me. In part of stash acquisitions. Man, my tongue is not working this morning. Or afternoon. It's not morning anymore. And I close it with the needles up, which kind of looks dangerous, but it's not going anywhere. It's staying on my desk, and it's just to keep my hat from falling off the needle. So I know definitely, number one, I can just pull it from here out, and also it doesn't come off the needles. So yeah, that is that. Also, I did want to mention that I had been admiring Lolo Did It for a very long time. When I first started knitting, I found out about her, I think her name is Lauren, her yarn dyeing business, and I really liked her colorways. I love her colorways. I love how she puts them together, and I love her color palette. Um, so anyway, as I was saying, I love Lolo Did It, and I've been admiring her stuff for a long time, and mostly because of her team stuff, but I love most of her colorways just to begin with. And I think she does really great work, and I'm really blessed to be able to buy her stuff now, because back when I first found her, I think it was about 5 years ago, I wasn't able to. So it's been really awesome to be able to buy colorways that I've been admiring for so long. And so yeah, let's move on to my next whip, which is in my uh, makeup case, I guess it is. I don't know what these are used for. But it's from my grandmother, so. And it's one of my favorite project bags. So yeah, this is my dad's Musselburgh, and it's part of my acquisitions. So I got Lolo. I did an order from Lolo Did It of the Texas A&M Aggies colorway and the Folsom Colorway, which was something that I talked about last time. So this is the Folsom Colorway, and I really like it. It's this really charcoaly gray, but when you knit it up, it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't look variegated, but when you knit it up, you see that it gets darker. And there's some parts that are lighter, but most of the time the speckles are darker than this. But it's really pretty, and I really like her neutrals. And partially why I like this colorway is because it's a neutral with speckles of some of my favorite colors. So this is my dad's Musselburgh, and it's huge. And it's got 2 strands coming off of it because I split the Texas A&M Aggies colorway into 2, and I'm alternating every 4 rows, so it kind of self-stripes. Which is really cool because I was hoping that it would kind of spiral up, kind of striping it, but it ended up being to where half of the hat was coming out gray and white and black, and the other half was coming out maroon. And I was like, well, I guess I'll switch it to where I have two skeins where one the gray is on this side and the other the maroon's on this side and the other side too. So it self-stripes, if that makes sense. I'll show you in just a sec. So this side you can see it's gray and black, but on this side it's maroon. And then it goes gray and black and maroon. So you see how it kind of stripes, and in the middle this is where it blends. And so yeah, I'm making my own self-striping. So this first part is kind of blowing out the camera, but it's Folsom, and like I said, and it's 15 inches long. 15 inches long. That's only 3 inches shorter than Isolde tells you in the pattern to knit for the small, the adult small or adult medium. It may be adult medium. That's huge. It's huge. But yeah, my dad wanted a big hat, and that's what he's getting. So I'm kind of in the middle of a round. But yeah, that's a hat, and I'm really enjoying it. And also in the colorway that I was sent for Texas A&M Aggies is a lot darker, and I actually really like this version of it because I like the maroon a lot better. It's like it's less orange and more like Aggie maroon, and I really like it. Um, so yeah, I've really been enjoying this, but I did a lot of work. That's 15 inches. And this other side is also going to be 15 inches the other way. So it's going to be, and this is just marking the beginning of round. But I'm having a lot of fun with it, and I'm really enjoying it. And here are my two skeins of Aggie Maroon. And you may be able to see on the camera how much darker this is. This is very dark and I love it. I'm not complaining. I love it. So yeah, and those are both on the original base again. All right, so final whip. Got a lot of whips and not a lot of finished objects this time. But final whip is my scrappy blanket, which is not made an appearance in a while, but I was gonna wait until I made significant progress on it. So the fact that I'm showing it should tell you that I've made significant progress on it. So I finished, or I think I've finished, one vertical bar in the blanket. And it goes on forever, but but I'm keeping it on a DPN with these little safety cones on them, so that while I work on the next one. But I'm pretty sure that this is about where I'm gonna stop, but I started on the next one so I don't burn out. So if you remember from the first episode, I said that, I think it was the first episode when I showed this, but I said that I like to knit this while my siblings and I are gaming or practicing. And so if this is like the normal northeasterly, which is where you attach it as you go, it would be kind of a pain in the butt to knit that for the 1 or 2 minutes that we're in lobby. So I decided to knit the vertical bars separate and then seam them together later. So this is bar number 2. And this is made with a cotton yarn, and it's actually held quadruple. I've got 4 strands here. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm holding 4 strands, which is kind of crazy, but it's not going anywhere. I'm not traveling with this. And so yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with that. I'm making good progress with it. Sorry, I'm wiping my nose, but I've got fuzz flying around now. And I did want to mention that the white acrylic that my knitting auntie sent me is now waiting to be put in my northeasterly. Sorry, my words are not coming easily today. So yeah, those are all my whips. And so now we can move on. I'm just gonna keep on going. And so you saw that I bought some stuff from Lolo did it, so we can move on to acquisitions. I actually have acquisitions this week, or this time. So at the beginning of October, so end of September, I won a knit along, and it was called the Clear the Needles Cow by Do So Knits. I I love to watch Do So Knits. She's one of my favorite podcasters, and if you haven't heard of her, you should so totally go check her out. She hasn't been podcasting recently because she just moved from Germany to Colorado, which I'm sure was a task in itself. I've moved across the pond before, so I kind of have an idea on how crazy that can be. So I won the knit along, or I won a prize in the knit along, and I got a prize bundle. And so I got these two skeins, and they're very fall themed. And I actually really like them. The colorway is called Purple Gecko, and it's an 80-20 blend. These are both 100-gram skeins. And I was floored when I received this. I was like, oh my gosh, she sent me two full skeins of yarn for winning a cow. And so they are very pretty, and I'm so excited to use these. So yeah, that's stash acquisitions number 1. I'm sorry. So, the next is a order that I made from Lolo Did It, and I've got several skeins because, like I said before, I've looked at Lolo Did It for a very long time, and one of the colorways that I've always wanted is her Nessie Colorway, and this is her Nessie Colorway, and it only comes out at Halloween, which kind of bums me out a bit, but I totally understand. Because number 1, it's a beautiful colorway. I love the blues and the greens and the blacks and whites. It's a beautiful. Yeah, sheesh. It's a beautiful colorway. Not your typical Halloween for sure. That's why I was kind of shocked when she said it comes out at Halloween. But this is also on her low original base. And part of the reason why I wanted to get this is because of its name. Its name is Nessie. And Nessie is something different for me than the Loch Ness Monster, kind of. So my siblings and I play a game called Apex Legends. And if you haven't heard of it before, it's a battle royale game. Basically it's a first person shooter battle royale game, which if you don't know what battle royale is, it's also Fortnite is also a battle royale game. But it's basically you drop into the game with nothing and you have to find stuff that's on the floor, and they call it loot. But in the game of Apex Legends, it's in the Titanfall 2 universe, which sounds like a bunch of mumbo jumbo. I just told you, but Titanfall 2 is another game. Um, but Apex Legends is in the same universe. It's just a battle royale game. And anybody who knows Apex Legends and Titanfall 2 knows about the Nessie. And so what this is it's a little dinosaur, and this is what it looks like. And I found a pattern of this on Etsy. And so what this is it's a little dinosaur, kind of stuffy guy that's like put around the map in places. And it's kind of a weird thing saying it to people who don't know anything about it, but you get kind of obsessed with it playing the game. And it's just kind of fun that during the game you just kind of go around and see if you can find all the different kinds of places where the little Nessie is hidden. And so yeah, this little guy started off in Titanfall 2, and of course they also brought it into Apex Legends. And so that's why I wanted to get this colorway, because it's named Nessie. Which reminded me of this little guy. And also the character that I like to play, one of the characters that I like to play in Apex Legends is Watson, and she has a little stuffy Nessie, and it was like her childhood toy. And so I think they're really cute. I love the little Nessie stuffy. I think it's really cute. And so yeah, it just made me think of this little dino guy. And that's why I wanted to get the colorway. Besides the fact that it's also a really pretty colorway. And I got 2 skeins of it, as you can see. I'm all over the place today. I'm sorry, guys. I'm out of practice. So also in that order, I got 2 skeins of Naked Hippo. Which, what this is this is basically Hippo for Hanukkah, Hippo for Independence, Hippo for insert holiday here. Or any day really. But take away all the speckles and this is what you've got. So it's a very nice neutral gray. And I was hoping I got it because it kind of matches Nessie, and also it was on sale for like $1 less than it usually is. So, and also it's just really great gray. Also in that order, I don't know if this is Bet Davis eyes or Betty Davis eyes. I would assume Bet because there's no I, which you can't read that, so I don't know why I'm showing you. But it's a very nice blue, and it kind of goes with Nessie. So I was thinking, those three go together pretty well. So I could use all these in a project, or I could just use Nessie by himself. So yeah, that's my little haul of yarn there. Or not so little, I guess it was 7 skeins of yarn. That's a lot of yarn for me. So let me just clean it up here and put my Nessie up. So that was a long, sorry, I'm wiping again. I got fluff everywhere. So, that was my stash acquisitions. And now I'm gonna move on into some sock talk, which I know is a grocery girls thing, but I'm gonna start adding at the very end of the podcast a little segment where I talk about previous uh projects. And in this case, I'm gonna talk about socks because I decided to talk about socks. So, I've been knitting a lot of socks recently. And like I said in episode 1, this is this summer sock camp was when I was learning to knit socks and also when I started knitting my first couple pairs. That's true and kind of not true at the same time because technically my first sock ever knit was in 2017 or 2018. So quite a while back. But the thing is I knit one sock and never knit its pair because I had so much trouble with it. So my first pair of socks, or my first sock, rather, is this guy. It's just a funny story because, um, it's so sad. It's such a sad sock. Number 1, it's made out of cotton. And number 2, it's gigantic. Like right about here, it's a sock. But this little sorry. It's just if you ever felt bad about your first sock or your first pair of sock, this should make you feel better. Number 1, the heel has holes in it, which I don't remember if that was a part of the pattern or if that was just me being weird. But I mean, I started off pretty good. But I think my main problem is I think I cast on for the sock size that you would knit in fingering weight and the DK to worsted weight yarn. So I think there's 64 stitches. I'm not going to count that. But I think what happened is I got the heel done and I didn't decrease, which I didn't need to because I think this is a short row heel. But I got to about here and I realized it was super duper big and super duper long if I was to decrease slowly. So I just decreased rapidly and ended up with this really tiny toe. I never knit the second sock of this, as you can probably guess. And yeah, so this was my first sock. My second sock was not much better because I was going to try Afterthought heel. And this is my sock. First of all, it's also made out of cotton in a DK weight. And I started up here. This is my first attempt at 9-inch circulars, actually. And it's in a cotton yarn. Again, fluff everywhere. And it's in a cotton yarn. And it's a tube. And it's really tight. Because I think I was knitting on a US size 2 or something with worsted weight. Something like that. It's super thick. And also, my rib doesn't line up, as you can see. But my toe is pretty good, actually. And I think that was my first attempt at Kitchener, because I think I had knit the toe separately and then tried to sew it on. I don't know where I got that from, but I never put the heel in. It's just a tube sock. And I never finished the second one, because I got bored of it. Next sock, or actually, my first pair of sock comes in this year, this summer. I think it was about May that I decided that I was going to try real socks. And, or real socks. So what I decided to do was to try and knit socks on straight needles. So I found a pattern book of socks on straight needles. And this was my first pair of socks. And they were knit on straight needles, and they're seamed, which sounds painful. Now it sounds painful, but back then it was the only way that I could get the sock pattern in my head, that I could figure out what it was trying to do. And then it's almost like I had to do it the hard way to see how the easy way works, which is kind of ridiculous. So yeah, this was my first pair of socks, and it does fit me. And it does look like a real pair of socks. It looks like it would fit a normal human being's foot. And so, or the typical human being foot. So then, after that, I'm like super excited because I knit a pair of socks that fits. And I actually ended up knitting another size out of the same yarn that's super huge, like man-sized socks. But I was on a roll, and I was excited because I had finished this pair of socks in like a day. As a newbie sock knitter, I knit a pair of socks in like a day. And it was awesome. Because this yarn is like a worsted to bulky, or worsted to Aran. So it's super chunky, and it was awesome to knit a pair of socks as a beginner in like a day. And so then I was super excited. So then I decided to cast on one of the other patterns that was actually knit in the kind of, that was knit, that the pattern was made for a fingering weight yarn. So I got some 100% superwash merino from Hobby Lobby, and I knit this sock. And you can see it kind of looks weird, and that's because it's got a hole. Because I never finished seaming this first sock. Because I think what happened is I started the pattern off strong, and then I forgot to do a repeat of the pattern and just started doing my own thing towards the bottom. And because I was so excited about this heel and all that kind of stuff, but then I decided after this sock was done that number one, I had messed up the pattern, which kind of took some wind out of my sails. And number two, I had to seam it in fingering weight yarn, which was harder than the bulky weight yarn, apparently. And I had messed up the pattern, and I didn't want to cast on the next one, and also I didn't like the colorway as much as I thought I would. So, this guy never got his mate. So then I decided that, knitting on straights sucked. So, I needed to try, knitting in the round. So that's what I did with this sock, which is too small for even my small feet. So this one never got their mate either. And this was my first attempt at a fishlets kiss heel, I think. I think that's what this is. And so I was trying something else that I had been told was easier than heel flap and gusset. So this is a sock that I had knit for me, and it's got a nice little slip stitch, I think. Yeah, slipped stitch thing around the, what would be right after the bumps on your toes. I don't know. Where your arches. Instep, I think is what they call it. So yeah, this is my first, what would have been my first pair of socks, or second pair of socks for me. First pair out of fingering weight. But I never finished this. Also, all the stitches are twisted, because I thought that would make the sock harder wearing. But it was a pain in the butt to twist stitches on a 9-inch circular needle. And I got fuzz everywhere. So this guy never got its mate. You see a pattern here. So then June or July comes around, I guess, and that's when summer sock camp started. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna get serious with this, which this guy was finished summer sock camp time. So I'm kind of going out of order. And I decided to knit this pair of socks, which is loud and crazy, but this is actually based off of a TV show that I really like. And so it was a pair of socks that appeared in that TV show, and I decided to copy it and make my own pair of socks that looked like those pairs of socks. So it's a 1x1 rib all the way down, fish lips, kiss heel, and then just a white foot. So a sock that I probably won't wear because it's a white sock, but I love them. I love them so much. They are one of my favorite pairs of socks I've ever knit because of the TV show reference. And every time I see them, I think of it. But this is knit out of Knit Picks palette, which is not a bad sock yarn. So that was my sock talk. So as you can see, I went from this craziness, which is kind of sad, to these guys, which are pretty good, to socks like this, which this is a self-patterning yarn. I didn't do this myself. I'm not that brilliant. To these are my most recent. So if you just keep practicing and keep doing it and don't give up like I did after this guy, you'll learn pretty fast. Like I said, I started at the beginning of summer sock camp, and by the end of, I think it was July, so like the second month in summer sock camp, I was already knitting socks that look like this, which was amazing because I was looking at other people's socks and then looking at socks that looked like this and be like, what am I doing wrong? So you may have a worse story for first sock than me, but this is pretty bad. Like, this doesn't even fit my dad, and my dad has pretty big feet. Like, that's how big this is. So that's my little bit of sock talk, I guess. And now my socks look like socks I saw on podcasts. So yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. So thank you guys so much for watching. Everything, hopefully, if I remember, will be linked in the description box below. But if I forget anything, feel free to email me or feel free to comment down below. Comment down below any pattern recommendations if you have some for my Nessie yarn and for all that kind of stuff. And yeah, like, subscribe, comment, interact with me. That's why I made this podcast, was to interact with the knitting community, like I'd seen other podcasts do where they didn't have any knitting community or any knitting friends, and then they started a podcast and they just had this whole community explode. Now, I may be a little different because I'm not on Instagram, but or any social media, but I'm hoping to have somewhat of a community here online. And so yeah, thank you guys so incredibly much for watching, and I will see you in 2 weeks. Thank you so much for, I'm just having a banner day. Thank you so much for watching. Any of you made it this far. Number one, I am sorry. And number two, just thank you so much for your patience. Be blessed and have a great day. Bye-bye.